Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter number 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Text number 8. शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चापि उग्रमातीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुगन्धानि वाशयात्. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Purport. Here, the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. So here we can see Krishna is giving reference about transmigration. Every action has a reaction, equal and opposite reaction. As it is also said in the Bible, as you sow, so shall you reap. So the body that we have now in this life is a result of our actions in our previous life. Similarly, whatever actions we are performing now is going to lead to reactions in the form of the next body. Now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about living entities. They are called Ishwaras, like they are small controllers, but they are controllers only of their own body. In fact, we say we are controllers of our body, but we cannot control our body. We cannot control the blinking of the eye. We cannot control aging of the body. We cannot control the body getting diseased. We cannot control all the aches and pains we get in the body. We cannot control our teeth falling off. So much is going on in this body. All these changes are going on. And we do not have control, but yet we are called Ishvara, small controllers, right? We think we are controllers, but we actually are not. So with this verse, we can understand that we have a choice. We can choose our next body based on the actions that we perform now in this life. This is how it is going to be decided at the time of death. all our actions will be taken into consideration, and based on that, and whatever we are thinking at the time of death, to that state we will attain. So we can choose our next body, just like we go online and we choose the product that we want, and then we place an order online. So Prabhupada explains that if we want to get better bodies, that's in our hands. If we want to go down in the lower species of life, that is also in our hands. It depends on what we are doing. What are the actions we are performing in this life? Either we use our minute independence or we misuse our minute independence. So, based on that, the final examination will be at the time of death. Krishna tells Arjuna, यम यम वापी स्मरण भावम त्यज तंते कलेवरम तम तम एवति कौंतेय सदा तद्भाव भावितः. That whatever one is thinking at the time of death, to that state he will attain without fail. Krishna is giving a guarantee without fail. It's not that if I'm thinking of X, I will go to Y. No, it is whatever the consciousness is at the time of death that will decide the next body for us. And that is why it's very important to remember Krishna at the time of death. If our goal is to go to Krishna Loka after death, but if our goal, I remember I was driving yesterday and I noticed, some cars, they have stickers at the back, all different kinds of stickers. And one of them was, I want my dog's life. That is what the sticker said. I want my dog's life. Krishna will say, well, if that is what your consciousness is, tathastu, that is what you will get in your next life, because this is what the consciousness is throughout the life. So if we want to remember Krishna at the time of death and go back to the spiritual world, then we have to practice it on a daily basis. It's not easy. Need to practice it throughout our life. Why is it that the students have to go to the school throughout the year, study every day, do projects and homework? And of course, in India, there are exams also, quarterly exams, half yearly exams, final exam. Why is all that there? Why isn't that the child just goes on the day of the final examination and give the exam? Can the child pass? No. The child has to practice throughout the whole school year to be able to graduate to the next level. So similarly, we also, if we want to be conscious of Krishna at the time of death, we have to make Krishna consciousness our habit. We have to chant every day, hear regularly, read regularly, need to associate with devotees. When we do that, then automatically we become conscious of Krishna 24/7. Now the question arises, what happens at the time of death? This is what this verse and the purport is explaining to us. It says that we carry our consciousness to the next body. So if we have been, acting in the mode of goodness, then that consciousness will go on to the next body, right? But if we live like animals, then definitely what we will get is an animal body, because the actions have been animalistic. So naturally, the result is going to be an animal body. But once we go down to the lower species of life, then karma doesn't act. There is no karma. In lower species of life, the only thing works is the evolutionary process, like from one species to the next one, to the higher one, to the higher one. This is how the whole process goes on till that lower species of life, the animal life, ends and a person gets the next body of a human. So if Prabhupada explains in the purport that if we develop godly qualities, then we can get the form of a demigod. But if we are Krishna conscious all our life, then we don't come back into the material world, we don't go to the heavenly planets, but we go to Vaikuntha, we go to the spiritual world, we go to Krishna Loka, the highest spiritual planet, right? So it is all up to us. What do we want to do? Do we want to come back into this world? Do we like the cycle of, transmigration from one body to another? Or we don't want any more birth, death, disease, or old age? We want permanent happiness. That decision we have to make. Krishna is not going to force us to do anything. He has given us that freedom, that minute independence, so that we can choose. We can choose based, in fact, we can use our intelligence, and with the help of knowledge, we can choose what we want to do. Now, we've already heard about the spiritual world. If you remember, Krishna has already talked about what his spiritual world looks like. And what does one do when one reaches his abode? He associates with the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is what it is. We associate, there is a direct association with Krishna. But of course, those who are not intelligent, they do not like to follow the Shastras. They think that after death, everything is finished. That's what Prabhupada is talking in the purport, right? That after death, nothing else. No transmigration. No, transmigration is a fact. Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord himself, is telling Arjuna there is transmigration. So it doesn't matter whether we believe it or not. Now, for instance, I'm sitting here in Atlanta and I may say, no, I think I'm sitting in India. It doesn't matter what I think. This is Atlanta. This is not India at all. So, transmigration is a fact. That fact cannot be changed. So, just by thinking that, after death everything is finished, no, it doesn't happen like that. For all the actions that we perform, we have to face the reactions, whether we like it or we don't like it. Just like we place an order recently, and I placed an order for a whole set of Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole set of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very auspicious month, and especially tomorrow is a very auspicious day, which is Ram Navami, right? Appearance day of Lord Ramachandra. So it is auspicious to bring Srimad Bhagavatam home or to give it as a gift to someone. So I placed an order for Srimad Bhagavatam, and it wasn't delivered on the date it was supposed to be delivered. And so I received an email that we tried to deliver, but there was no one at the door. So we had to take it back to the post office. And I'm thinking, I have video surveillance. I checked all the recordings. There was no one at the front door. They said the notice was left. There was no notice left. And so finally, I, online went and said, please try to re-deliver it. And I got a confirmation, yes, it'll be delivered the next day. 3 days passed and no sign at all. And so today I went to the post office, the Sandy Springs post office in Northridge. And he brings that whole Bhagavatam set, it's really heavy, huge, so many volumes. And he puts it on a trolley. He says, yeah, you can take. And I'm thinking, how can I carry such a huge Srimad Bhagavatam? But there was no choice. Had to somehow or the other put it in the trunk of my car. So the order I placed was Srimad Bhagavatam set. What should I have received in return? Srimad Bhagavatam set, and that's what I received because I placed an order. If I place an order for Bhagavad Gita, that is what I'm going to get. Similarly, right now with our actions, we are placing an order for our next body. So whatever our consciousness is, that is what we are going to carry with us in the next body. So if somehow or the other we can be Krishna conscious while in this body, whatever time is left, if somehow or the other we can train our mind and body to be conscious of Krishna throughout the day, then there is guarantee Krishna gives, that at the time of death we will be able to remember him and be able to go back to Godhead. We're talking so much about actions and reactions. Why is it that Krishna gave, two chapters on karma, chapter 3 and chapter 5? Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Chapter 5, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. All the time he explained to Arjuna how to perform the actions. He wanted us to understand how to act, how to perform our activities, right? We learned what is karma, what is akarma, what is vikarma. And our activities should be based on knowledge and not whimsically that, oh, my mind thinks I should do that, or according to me, in my opinion. No, we have to know how to act. Now, one may say, I already know how to act. But do we know our actions are going to produce reactions? Krishna gave us a very nice solution. He said, perform akarma. You perform the activities according to the Shastras, according to the scriptures, and do not desire to enjoy the results of your activities, which means perform your prescribed duty and don't worry about the result, right? So, what else does Krishna say in this? It says, Prabhupada also explains that it is a subtle body. So we learned in chapter 2, there are two bodies, right? Gross body and subtle body. Subtle body includes mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this subtle body that carries the conceptions, right? Whatever conceptions it has, this subtle body, it goes on to the next body. The verse is saying that the living entities carries different conceptions to another body, just like the air carries the aromas, right? When the air is going through the rose garden, it carries the fragrance of the roses through it. When the air passes through trash, it carries, we won't call it aroma of trash, but it carries, that you can smell, that, okay, this is trash. So just like the air carries aromas, similarly, we carry different conceptions to our next body. So it's very important to be 100% sure, how to act. Be 100% sure of karma, because it is a definite fact that every action has a reaction. So important to, if our consciousness is not Krishna consciousness, then we need to somehow or the change. If we can change that, then there is a guarantee that there is going to be liberation. Let's go to verse 9 and see what Krishna has to say. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Purport. In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if he mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When, therefore, one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or any of the many other forms, for there are 8.4 million species. See? We obtain certain type of senses, and these are all grouped with the mind, and we try to enjoy these senses. And how do we enjoy it? With sense objects, right? The body and the senses that we have today is what we placed an order in our last life, and now we are trying to enjoy those senses. When we see the sense objects, we want to enjoy those senses. So according to the Shastras, that Either we live as per the Shastras, or we live, against the scriptures. So following the instructions of the scriptures of the Supreme Lord will help us to somehow or the other get liberated, to come out of this cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada explains in the purport, like our consciousness is pure like water. But when we mix the color with the water, then it changes. Then it's no longer pure water, right? Similarly, the soul is pure, but because, excuse me, we are conditioned, entrapped in this body, conditioned so much, contaminated so much, that we are unable to really see our true selves. The soul is pure, but right now, it is covered up, contaminated. We heard chapter 14, which is entitled Modes of Material Nature, right? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And that is discussed in the whole chapter of 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says, Mam chevo bhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samitatyatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That one who performs full devotional service to Krishna, then he is able to transcend these three modes of material. Sagunan samite. Then you can transcend these three modes of material nature. Then a person, even though is in this material body, has the material senses, but starts getting purified, starts acting above the modes of material nature, and is actually in a liberated state, even though present in the material world in the material body. So it's important, what is a condition to transcend the modes? Krishna says full devotional service. Engage in full devotional service. And devotional service is explained by Prahlad Maharaj. He gives the 9 processes of devotional service, and he says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. It starts with Shravanam, with hearing. And then when we hear, then it is Kirtanam, then we chant. When we hear and we chant, the next step becomes Smaranam, that is remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So our consciousness, it gets affected based on our association. It depends on who are we associating with. It depends on in which mode we are operating. So based on our association, we will perform our activities in that particular mode. If we associate with people in the mode of goodness, then that is going to rub off on us. And then we will also start acting in the mode of goodness. So our consciousness gets affected based on the association. Now, we need to choose our association. We need to choose our food, our association, our, what we hear, what we read, where we go. All those choices need to be made. I'm not sure if you've heard the story of Bharat Maharaj, right? Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the entire world, right? He decided to renounce everything and go to the forest. He wanted to, spend the remaining part of his life in just meditating on the Supreme Lord. But when he went to the forest, he got attached to a deer. And he was so, because he was associating with deer so much, that when he was about to leave his body, he was thinking of deer, and the next life he had was that of a deer. So you see how association can really make or make us or break us. So it's very important. We are actually parts of Krishna. We are pure. The spirit soul is pure, but because of contamination in this material world, we are conditioned and we are not interested in Krishna consciousness. We are not really, we are so enamored and so attracted by this material world, by the things that we see, hear, or whatever it is, that attraction is so, that attachment is so strong that we are not so inclined towards Krishna consciousness, towards somehow the other chanting and hearing and reading and transcending the three modes of material nature. Our original nature is Krishna consciousness, because we are parts of Krishna. We've come from the spiritual world. That's where we belong. But because of the association, we have lost the taste for Krishna consciousness. So it's very important to understand that this human form of life, as Prabhupada says in the purport, it is not guaranteed. Some time back someone had said, once a human, always a human. No, nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita that is given. No, it is based on our time of death. What do we think at the time of death? To that state we will attain without fail. That is what Krishna is saying. So we need to understand that there is no guarantee that in our next life we will get a human form of life. Our actions will choose our next body from 8.4 million species of life. Why is it that only the human beings have philosophical intelligence? So that they can take this knowledge, understand what is right, what is wrong, and follow the right path. So only human beings have that intelligence. Yes, animals do have intelligence, but that is in a very, very small quantity. So Bhagavad Gita actually helps us to understand all that is necessary: who we are, where have we come from, why are we suffering, where do we go from here, what is our original home, is this our original home or not. And human life means taking up that responsibility, right? People say we are human beings. No, we are spiritual beings with human experience. We are not human beings trying to have a spiritual experience. No, we are spiritual beings trying to get human experience. See, tomorrow, as I was saying, is an auspicious day of Ram Navami. It would be nice if you all can fast from grains and beans and probably give a present to Lord Ramachandra, right? Whenever there is a birthday, we take a present, we take a gift. It could be chanting. Holy name is very, very powerful, especially the Maha Mantra, chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Very, very powerful. In fact, tomorrow is Ram Navami, so I'd like to relate a story before I close. Narad Muni met Hanuman, and Narad Muni asked Hanuman, let us go to the kingdom of Lord Ramachandra and see him. So before going there, Narad Muni told Hanuman that there's going to be Vishwamitra also, right? Lord Ramachandra's teacher is going to be there. So I want you to pay respects to all, but don't pay respects to Vishwamitra. And Hanuman said, are you kidding? If I don't do that, Vishwamitra will get so angry and he will curse me. How can I not do that? Narad Muni said, don't worry, I will take care of you. Nothing will happen to you. You just do as I say. Because Narad Muni wanted to prove a point. So when they entered the kingdom, Hanuman, he paid obeisances to Lord Ramachandra and to Sita and to everyone. But when it came to Vishwamitra, he did not pay obeisances. He did not offer respects. So immediately Vishwamitra got very angry. And he told Lord Ramachandra, he said, I order you that you kill Hanuman tomorrow. That's my order. Now, Lord Ramachandra, how can he disobey his guru? So Hanuman came out and told Narad Muni, see, now what am I going to do? You told me you're going to take care of me. Narad Muni said, yes, I will take care of you. He said, over there is a tree. I want you to go and sit down under that tree. Tomorrow, he said, tomorrow I want you to go and sit down under that tree, and I want you to just chant Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram. Just go on chanting. So Hanuman thought, why tomorrow? Let me go now only. So that night itself, he went, sat under the tree, and he chanted Sita Ram all night up until the next morning. It was going on, his chanting was going on. So next morning came and Vishwamitra told Lord Ramachandra, it's time for you to kill Hanuman. So they went and found out, asked Narad Muni, where is Hanuman? He said, oh, there he's sitting under the tree. And so Lord Ramachandra had no choice. So he took his bow and arrow and he shot the arrow. So as the arrow was going towards Hanuman, Hanuman was, totally engrossed in chanting Sitaram, Sitaram. The arrow went and it fell near Hanuman and just sat there. The arrow just sat there. And Vishwamitra was surprised, said, what happened? So Narad Muni told Vishwamitra, the holy name is so powerful, right? So even though Lord Ramachandra's arrow was going, Lord Ramachandra's arrow, how can Lord Ramachandra's arrow kill the devotee who is chanting Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram? That is not possible. How powerful the holy name is. It can help us get liberated. It can help us go back to Godhead. It can help us to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So it's very, very important that we chant this Maha Mantra every day as much as possible so that our consciousness starts becoming Krishnaized. We start becoming more and more Krishna conscious and prepare ourselves for the last moment. So I am going to stop here. If anyone has any questions.